Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a tag. We are doing the Midyear Freakout tag. This was one that Alan over at the Library of Alexandria invited all of his patrons to have a go at, so I am considering myself tagged from Alan. And it is a bit of a middle of the year, 6th monthly update, highs, lows, interesting things from the previous 6 months. I like doing this one in July, just as we get to the 6-month mark of the year, the halfway mark of the year. So let's jump straight in. Question 1. Best book you have read in 2022. Straight in with a big hitter. And for me this year, I have read the first Law starting, I think it was in February I read the first one, and I love this series, and I think the best book I read this year so far has been Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. This series is brilliant. The first Law trilogy is incredible. This second book for me is an incredible follow-up to The Blade itself. I think it is absolutely brilliant. I think it is a great sequel. I love the way the characters are developed and continue to grow. Some of the characters in it are some of my favourite characters in fantasy. They are just really well done. I highly recommend this series for the 2% of you who haven't read the first Law trilogy yet. And for me, Before They Are Hanged is the best book of the three. I think it takes what The Blade itself does and improves on it really nicely. And I think that it is a more all-round solid book than The Last Argument of Kings, although I also love that. Mainly because I think the character development of some of my favourite characters are just absolutely beautifully done within Before They Are Hanged. I think the character development of Jezal and Dan Luther is brilliant. I love how Colin West evolves in this as well as Logan. The character development in Before They Are Hanged is just absolutely phenomenal, and it is, in my opinion, the best book in the original trilogy. Question 2. The best sequel you have read in 2022. Well, this is a little bit awkward. Let's put this one down for the minute. We're not going to talk about Before They Are Hanged again. I'm going to pick something else. And for this book, I'm going to pick the sequel that I think was the biggest improvement over the first book in the series, and that is Jade War. I really like Jade War. For me, the Greenbow Saga has been a very good read over the last few months. I've really enjoyed it. I think that it improves iteratively throughout the series, throughout the installments. I think Jade City starts off a little bit weak, in my opinion, with a good finish, but I think Jade War is a massive step up. I don't remember the exact star ratings I gave. I believe I gave Jade City 4 stars, but it was probably not a very high 4 stars, whereas for me, Jade War was 4.5, bordering on 5. I really loved it. Jade Legacy, again, is a brilliant follow-up and conclusion to that trilogy, but for me, Jade War takes all the good things from Jade City, takes them to 11, and it drops some of the stuff I didn't love quite so much. So for me, Fonda has really written an incredible book too, and Jade Legacy, like I said, is an incredible finish to that trilogy also. I think considering how Jade City started, I am amazingly impressed with how the Greenbow Saga evolved and developed and how it became a series I really enjoyed. So incredibly good work for book 2 there in that series. Question 3. New release you haven't read but you want to. So this one is going to be an interesting one. For this I am saying In the Shadow of Lightning by Brian McClellan. Brian McClellan is someone who I have read the original Powder Mage trilogy from, and I did enjoy it. I think it has some weaknesses, but I did actually enjoy Promise of Blood and the 2 follow-ups to that in Powder Mage. I know it received some hate in the circles of booktube I'm in, but I thought it was a decent read, if not groundbreaking. I'm really excited to read In the Shadow of Lightning, although from the reviews I have seen, I'm a little bit nervous. I've seen a lot of people say it's just fine. I've heard people say that they didn't love it, but they can't quite explain why. It just didn't work. I am a little bit hesitant, but I was really excited to read something else by Brian McClellan. I'm hoping that I love it, even with those more middling reviews that I have heard. So hopefully it's a book I will love, but I am very excited to read it and get to it when I can. So it will be interesting to see if my opinions differ or converge with those people in my little corner of booktube who are not quite massive fans of it. Question 4, most anticipated release for the second half of 2022. This is a no-brainer. The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. It is the 4th and final instalment in Mistborn Era 2. I love the Cosmere. I love Mistborn. Mistborn Era 2 isn't my favourite, but I really do still love it. It's not quite on the same level for me as a Stormlight or a Mistborn 1, but it's never really meant to be. It's a very different feel. It's meant to be more light-hearted, slightly less epic. I'm really excited for Lost Metal, though. I'm excited for the reveals. I'm excited to see where Brandon takes this. I'm excited that it's long. I really love that by the sounds of his updates, it is getting the long treatment. Is getting more like a Mistborn Era 1 size entry to the series, and I love that. I am super excited to see where our characters get to. I am hoping we get to see some more of the side characters, I think particularly Steris. Yeah, I am really, really excited, and I'm excited considering the reveal we get at the end of Bands of Mourning. I cannot wait to see where we go with the Lost Metal. Question 5, and we're on to a slightly less upbeat question, our first real negative question, and that is biggest disappointments from the start of the year. Now, there are 2 things here for me. There was one that I completed that I didn't love, that I thought I might, and there was one that I was really excited for, and I've actually DNF'd. So, first up, let's talk about The Emperor's Blades by Brian Staveley. I read this as what was going to be a read-along with Alan on his channel. After the reception for the first book in the trilogy, it was sort of abandoned. I just found it meh. It felt like it was written to be YA, and that's not always negative, don't get me wrong, I'm happy reading YA books, but it felt like it was written that way, but then it threw in gratuitous stuff to try and adult it up, which felt weird to me. I didn't love any of the characters massively. I felt like it was almost a bit of a prologue to the series, which is a bit weird. For me, the ending was better. I actually enjoyed the last 100 pages or so, but I gave it a very generous 3.5 stars. It probably was not quite deserving of that rating, but it felt harsh considering how panned it was by everyone in the read-along. I didn't love it at all. It was just okay. It was just there. I might get to the other 2 books in the series, who knows, but currently it was a big disappointment. Not as well received as I was hoping it would be. I was hoping it would be something I'd be really enjoying, plough through the trilogy. It just didn't live up to the hype, frankly. As well as that, the other book I want to mention here is a book that I think I didn't really give a fair shot. And that's partially because with everything going in my life at the minute, I didn't really have time to dig into this book as well as I would have liked to commit to reading it a little bit quicker. And that is Daughter of Redwinter by Ed McDonald. I have not read any Ed McDonald's books before this, and I put this down not because it was bad. It was actually quite good, but it just, with everything going on in my life, with a newborn baby, it just wasn't gripping me. I wasn't finding the time and the excitement to pick it up and read it. I will undoubtedly come back to it at some point because it was decent and I can see how it would have progressed well. I only got about 30% of the way through it, so I didn't really give it a fair shot. It was a disappointment for me that it didn't grip me and it didn't drag me through, but that's not me saying it's bad in any respect. I totally think this was to do with life circumstances rather than the book actually not being of a good quality. Question number 6, and this is more positive once again, biggest surprise. Those of you who've been around my channel for a while may have seen me talk about this book before. It was a book I had no expectations of anything from when I picked it up. I picked it up on a recommendation from a video from Angela over at Literature Science Alliance, and it is the first cyberpunk book I've ever read, and it is 36 Streets by T.R. Napper. Now, for me, this was a cyberpunk thrill ride that I absolutely loved. I really enjoyed following Lynn, protagonist. I think she's very interesting, and the world that T.R. Napper built here was very, very good. Very interesting, explored and shown to us very well. It is set in a futuristic Vietnam, specifically Hanoi. That's what the 36 streets are referencing. It's a part of Hanoi in Vietnam. And it is proper cyberpunk, and it addresses really strong thematic issues. It talks to identity and patriotism, memory. It's just really, really well done. I really, really enjoyed it, and it was a very fast-paced, exciting read. yet by the end it had still really well engaged with different themes and different questions. And for me, if it can be fast-paced and enjoyable and interesting, but also answer those thematic questions, that is awesome, because so often books do one or the other, and I loved that this managed to do both as we went through the pages with Lynn, who was a very enjoyable and likeable protagonist as well. Question number 7, favourite new author, and I'm taking this as new author to me, and as already discussed once so far this video, Joe Abercrombie is the man. He is incredible. I have absolutely loved the First Law trilogy, even if it was not the most upbeat and uplifting series. We will talk about First Law even more later on in this video, but for now, my favourite newest author, absolutely Joe Abercrombie. I will be picking up the standalones in the next few months, hopefully. Cannot wait to get back into the First Law world. Question number 8, newest fictional crush. Now, to throw this out there, I'm not someone who really gets this question. It's not something that appeals to me. Like, there aren't characters in books I'm like, oh yeah, I love them particularly. For me though, here, after a little bit of a think, I went with Amara. Now, Amara is from the Codex Alera series, which I read 5 of the 6 books this year. I read the first book last year. I really enjoy Amara as a character. We are introduced to her in the very first chapter of the very first book, and I love who she is. I love the way she acts and the way she engages with people. I love the relationships that she builds throughout the series, and if you have read Codex Alera, you'll know one in particular that I'm thinking of that I think is written supremely well from Jim Butcher. Amara is just a really competent, interesting, fun, sometimes serious character who she has that sort of, she's interesting and she's competent and she just would be enjoyable to be around. And for me, that is a big part of enjoying characters in book series. Codex Alera, if you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend as an epic fantasy series from Jim Butcher. It is just very, very, very good. Question 9, newest favourite character. Now, let me start with the First Law again. This is the last time I will mention First Law. If you're not a First Law fan, don't worry, this is the last time I'm going to talk about it. My favourite character from First Law so far, Colin West. Colin West is a wonderful, wonderful character. Now, in book 1, in The Blade itself, I really liked him, but he wasn't too involved. He felt a bit like a secondary character. In Before They Are Hanged, my favourite book of the series, Colin West comes out of his shell and he is awesome. He is absolutely awesome. I love Colin West. I love that he is conflicted and life is difficult, but I love that he is just an awesome, awesome man. The idea of him not being a noble in a world and a country that is so focused on nobility is brilliant. The way that he works his way up, awesome. I just love the character of Colin West. I think he is absolutely awesome. A character that will be living with me for a long, long time. The other character I want to talk about here is actually from a series I only started the other month, and that is from the Lives of Locke Lamora, and the titular character, Locke Lamora, is a wonderful, wonderful character. You can't talk about Locke without talking about Jean, who is sort of the other half of their found family, along with a bunch of other guys in their Gentleman Bastards, in their group. But for me, in the first book, we get a real window into Locke's soul. I love him as a character. Combine that with the greater focus we have on Jean in Red Seas and Red Skies. I just love the both of them. They're absolutely brilliant. They work as a beautiful tandem. But Locke, even more so, I just love as a character on his own. I love the way that Lynch sets him up. Just a brilliant, brilliant character. I think that between the First Law and the Gentleman Bastards, as a character study, as looking and building characters and understanding motivations, they are just done so incredibly, incredibly well. Question 10, book that made you cry. Now, I have 2 answers here. One of them is from a reread, so it doesn't really count, but I want to talk about it anyway. And the second one is one that was a new read to me at the beginning of this year. So, first up, let's talk Jim Butcher again, and let's talk Changes. Changes is book 12 of the Dresden Files. As you might think, it is a book where everything changes. And if you have not read it, I would just say it is a highly emotional book, considering the type of series it's in. You don't necessarily think about that from the Dresden Files, but for me, Changes is a supremely emotional book. You put on James Master's narration in the audiobook on top of that, and just mind-blowing. It is an experience. It is a media experience that you need to witness, in my opinion. There is a particular moment that I'm sure all you Dresden fans, everyone who's read the series will know the moment I'm talking at, that every time I well up, there is a tear to my eye every time we get to that part. And the delivery from James Masters in the audiobook is just phenomenal as well. That is how you should write emotional scenes. That is how you create impact, emotional impact in your stories. Just incredibly well done from Jim Butcher. I can't talk about how highly I rate Changes, and to be honest, the whole Dresden Files, as you guys know. Now, the new book to me that caused me to well up a little bit might be a strange one for some people. You might not expect it, but it is this here, The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. This only came out this year. It is book 2 of the Bloodsworn saga, and I really, really loved it. I think it's very good. It's a very chunky boy, especially even thicker than the first one. It is beautiful, it is brilliant, it is really good. But again, for those who've read it, there's one moment later on that I don't want to discuss too in depth because of spoilers. There's one moment right near the end that got me. That had me, and I don't know how this is going to play out in future books. It seems quite final, but we don't know how this is going to resolve. John Gwynne has done this to me before, but there was one moment that I just really got me. It felt real, and it really impacted me. The way that it affected the characters, it felt like it affected me in the same way. And yeah, without talking spoilers, The Hunger of the Gods, it's a long book, but the payoff towards the end felt very real and very tender. I felt tender reading it, and I think that's just an incredible feat to manage. As well as that, even the dedication in The Hunger of the Gods made me well up. Before I'd even read the book, the dedication even, if you don't know, John Gwynne and family have been through a lot in this last year, and the dedication itself, before I even got into the book, made me well up. And yeah, I can't even imagine what they're going through and what they've gone through, but man, can John Gwynne write a story. Man, can he write a good story. Question number 11, a book that made you happy. For this, I am going to pull on Codex Alera again, and I'm going to pick First Lord's Fury, which is book 6, the final book of Codex Alera. Now, the reason this made me so happy is that it is a book 6 of a 6-book series. It has been building, it has laid plot thread, and book 6 got to be the book of payoff. Like, there was payoff after payoff after payoff. It was just beautifully done. It felt like the thing had been planned to perfection. It felt like the series had been building to this moment. It was a book with basically no setup. There was not any setup in First Lord's Fury because there didn't need to be setup. It just needed to be completed. It just needed to complete the plot arc, it needed to complete the character arcs, and everything came together with such a satisfying ending. Now, it wasn't necessarily groundbreaking. It did the things I expected. I wasn't shocked and, mind blown by what was being done, but the payoff was just good and satisfying, and it finished the series how you want to finish a series. And that, for me, is a wonderful thing when so many series don't deliver at the end what they have been building up to. So Jim Butcher knows how to write an ending, and I'm hoping that follows through in the Dresden Files. But I loved this book, just full of payoffs, and it was just done very, very nicely, and it was a great conclusion to a series. Question 12, the most beautiful book you've received this year. Now, this one is going to be this thing over here by Jen Williams, The Ninth Reign. It is the Broken Binding subscription edition, and it is absolutely beautiful. Now, it looks beautiful anyway. Now, you guys know I really like The Ninth Reign, and I love the Winning Flame trilogy generally. It's just a brilliant, brilliant series. But if we take this off now, beautiful end pages. But if we take the dust jacket off, well, also lovely little bookmark like that. If we take the dust jacket off, have a look at this naked hardcover. That is a hardcover, yeah? That is just absolutely beautiful. Really love the foil detailing, love the edge, is just a quality book. It's absolutely beautiful. I am loving all of these special editions. You saw the first Law editions, they were special editions from the Broken Binding as well. I'm loving all these editions, but this for me is the one so far. I'm really excited to see what the Bitter Twins and what the Blood Song look like as well. But yeah, for me, this is the best one they've done so far. Then the 13th and the final question, books you need to read this year. So what do I need to finish in the rest of this year? Now, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you to go check out this video over here, which is a video for the 5 fantasy series that I need to read in 2022. I have basically completed 3 of these. I've read 1 book in one of them, and I've got another that I've not even started yet. So we're going to talk about those briefly, but then we're going to talk about one that I need to finish that I've been stuck on book 2 of a trilogy for a long time. So first up is the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I've actually read this one. I've read the 5th season, but I have not got round to the Obelisk Gate yet. I have not got round to the Stone Sky. I really want to get to those soon. Because I really enjoyed the 5th season. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was an incredible book, and I'm really excited to see where we go with the next 2 books in this series. I just haven't got around to them yet. As well as that, another series that I said I wanted to read in 2022 was The Dagger and Coin by Daniel Abraham. Many of you will know that I love Abraham's work. I enjoyed The Age of Ash, the first book in the Kithamar trilogy. I've loved The Long Price Quartet. It is one of my favourite series of all time. I absolutely adore The Long Price Quartet. And I just need to get around to The Dagger and Coin. I need to see what Abraham has been doing here and how it is different to LPQ, how it intersects with it, if he's still addressing the same themes in the same manner that he did in The Long Price Quartet. As well as that, I am 2 books into the Lycanius trilogy. I need to read The Light of All That Falls. Now, I have recently read the start of this book, which is actually a quick summary of the previous 2 books because I have read them, but it was a good few months ago now. I really want to get to this. I was excited rereading the summary, and I will get to this in the next few months, certainly by the end of the year. Hopefully before the Broken Binding send me the Lycanius trilogy, which is the next one they're doing in the subscription after they finish doing the Winnowing Flame trilogy. I hope that's been interesting to you. I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of the things I've enjoyed reading this year, some of the disappointments. Like I said, go check out this video over here, which is my 5 series I need to read in 2022, and I'll talk a little bit more in depth about some of those. Otherwise, like the video if you liked it, and I'll see you guys again soon.